Hello there, and welcome to my first review for the next series I'll be working my way through, Agatha Christie's Poirot. This will be a significant undertaking since this show spanned 13 series or seasons, covering the vast majority of the short stories and novels written by Agatha Christie where Hercule Poirot was the main detective. There are 70 episodes in total, and I'll be reviewing all of them as I have time to do so. Obviously, there will be spoilers in these reviews, recaps of the series, but considering some of these stories are nearly a century old and the series has been over for more than a decade, I'm not too worried about spoiling anything for you if you're watching this video series. Agatha Christie's Poirot was quite the undertaking when it was first developed in the 1980s. Agatha Christie's work had been adapted many times over the years, most notably on movie screens and in theaters. This was the first attempt, though, to translate the Poirot stories from the small screen and still have some of the cinematic qualities of the previous adaptations. Originally produced by LWT, London Weekend Television, the show was eventually produced by ITV Studios, one of the largest producers and distributors of television programming in the UK. Since the Poirot stories were set in a rather vague time frame between the end of the First World War and the start of the Second World War, the writers and producers of the show decided to set the events of the series in a rather firm timeline between the years 1935 and 1939. This allowed the production team to fully commit to the Art Deco style of the 1930s, particularly for the stories set in England. This is even conveyed in the title sequence for the show, which has a rather haunting saxophone melody accompanied by a piano backup. There's a melancholic energy to the piece as it builds to the title of the series that I find greatly enjoyable. The first series or season of the show is 10 episodes, each one running between 48 to 51 minutes in length and adapting one of the many short stories Christie wrote for the Poirot character. The first episode of Agatha Christie's Poirot is an adaptation of the short story The Adventures of the Clapham Cook, originally published in 1924. The story is meant to be one of the early cases in Poirot's tenure as a private detective. It also establishes who our main cast will be for a good chunk of the series, with exceptions as time goes on and the series begins adapting the novels instead of the short stories. David Suchet was actually suggested by the Christie estate due to a performance in a show called Blot on the Landscape. Suchet's performance as Poirot over the course of the series is considered by many, including relatives of Agatha Christie, to be the definitive version of the character, being as close to who you see in the novels and short stories as possible. Hugh Fraser portrayed Captain Arthur Hastings, Poirot's flatmate and business partner, essentially the Watson for Poirot. Pauline Moran would portray Miss Lemon, Poirot's attentive secretary. Lastly, Philip Jackson plays Inspector Japp, the main recurring police officer from Scotland Yard that Poirot regularly interacts with. Before I dive into the ups and downs of the episode, remember to hit that like and subscribe button if you're enjoying my content. It's a small gesture, but it helps creators like me. Don't forget to hit the bell icon as well so you can get updates when I drop new content. Also, check out my link tree in the video description below. I have links there for my social media accounts as well as my Patreon, where I post exclusive reviews and content, as well as a link to my book series, The Atalante Chronicles. Thanks for listening to my shameless self-promotion. Now, on with the recap. Down number 1, the opening scene. The structure of The Adventure of the Clapham Cook detracts from the overall impact of the mystery at the heart of the show. We're shown in the first few minutes a man frantically binding a large chest with rope and shown his full face with no other context for the scene. Ordinarily, this could work to establish a mystery, but it feels like a misstep for this particular story. The narrative thrust of the short story is the disappearance of the cook, which leads Poirot into the larger plot of a bank robbery. I don't feel anything is lost by cutting this sequence out of the episode, and instead leading with the introduction of Poirot, which is the next sequence we see after the opening. Down number 2, some uninteresting side characters. Using one of the short stories that is set as one of Poirot's early cases is a great idea to introduce the audience to Christie's primary detective. Unfortunately, the short story doesn't have the most compelling side characters. In this case, Mrs. Todd, played by Bridget Forsyth, kicks off the plot by hiring Poirot to investigate her missing cook. In both the short story and the episode, Mrs. Todd is aggravating, nosy, and rude for no apparent reason. Her husband, played by Anthony Carrick, isn't given much characterization at all. They are only on screen for a short amount of time, but the impression they leave isn't a good one. Down number 3, the mishandled twist. One of the hallmarks of Agatha Christie's writing is her ability to come up with brilliant and unexpected twists to her stories. While The Adventure of the Clapham Cook short story is not her most compelling twist, it is a decent one. Sadly, the twist is spoiled because of the opening sequence of the episode. In the short story, we are told about the bank robbery early on and introduced to Arthur Simpson, a lodger at the residence of Mrs. Todd and an employee at the bank that suffered the robbery, when Poirot visits to investigate Eliza Dunn's disappearance. Because of the opening sequence, we know that Simpson is involved in something shady from the get-go, which eliminates the suspense of the central mystery. When the reveal occurs toward the end that Simpson was behind getting Eliza to leave her job so he could use her large trunk to store the body of his coworker, and use that disappearance to frame his coworker for the robbery Simpson committed, it lands with less weight. Up number 1, some side characters are interesting. By contrast, though, are characters like Arthur Simpson, played by Dermot Crowley, Eliza Dunn, the missing cook, played by Frida Dowie, Annie, the housemaid for Mrs. Todd, played by Katie Murphy, and Danny Webb as a railway porter who helps tip Poirot onto the real culprit. Crowley's portrayal of Simpson is reserved for what we see of him early on. There's a sense of apprehension when he meets Poirot and Hastings, particularly since we saw him feverishly binding the large chest in the opening sequence of the episode. Frida brings a down-to-earth quality to Eliza when Hastings and Poirot visit her, giving her a sharp contrast to her employer, Mrs. Todd. Katie Murphy's portrayal of Annie is endearingly energetic, which makes her pronouncements about what she thinks is really going on far easier to stomach. Lastly, Danny Webb's Porter character is an invention for the show to help bring the plot to its conclusion, but it works largely because of how snide and cunning Webb plays the character. You can tell this is a rather unsavory character, but he's got a wicked type of charisma that makes him compelling. Up number 2, Hastings and Poirot. Hugh Fraser and David Suchet have immediate chemistry as actors. The opening scene where Hastings is trying to compel Poirot by reading over crimes reported in the newspaper sets the tone for how these two will interact moving forward. Both are rather stuffy, stoic men of their era, but it's clear from the beginning the deep respect and affection the two characters have for each other. Hastings' role in the story is to help us as the audience pull the truth out of Poirot as the story progresses, so we are able to put together the pieces of the mystery. It's a brilliant bit of work between the two actors, even if Hastings is written to be rather slow on the uptick to make Poirot seem more brilliant. Up number 3, the temporary humbling of Poirot. David Suchet tapped into the inherent arrogance of the Poirot character immediately. Within the first few minutes of being on screen, we can see through his dress, mannerisms, and speech that Poirot thinks quite highly of himself, more than would be deemed proper in most cases. When Poirot gets angry halfway through the episode after being dismissed by Mr. and Mrs. Todd, it's played to comic effect rather than as a dramatic moment. You can't help but laugh a bit at the absurdity of this little man who didn't initially want to investigate a case he felt was beneath him, but now feels it is a challenge to his intelligence, or his little gray cells, as Poirot is fond of saying. Poirot is an obsessive-compulsive character, and Suchet captures every bit of that in this episode's performance. Overall, The Adventure of the Clapham Cook is a fine first episode of the series. It helps that the central characters are played by actors of excellent quality who can bring them to life with panache. While the central mystery falls flat due to pacing and how the opening of the story is done, there are still enjoyable moments throughout due to the commitment of the actors. No one seems to be phoning it in, so to speak. This was my second watch of this episode, so I picked up on things the second time around that I didn't enjoy more than the first time through the episode. Thanks for taking the time to listen to my recap of The Adventure of the Clapham Cook. Thanks for taking the time to listen to my recap of The Adventure of the Clapham Cook, the first episode of Series 1 for Agatha Christie's Poirot. If you've enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button, as well as the bell icon to get notified when I post new content, and check out my link tree in the description below to follow me on the web.